There is a force guiding everything in your life, and this force is always communicating with you and attempting to direct and help you. But often we do not hear it, or perhaps we willfully choose to ignore it. But why? Because there is another voice, a more forceful and alluring voice, drawing our attention. It is the voice of the ego, which speaks to you through the thoughts in your mind. It appears to want to help you, to protect you, and provide for you also. But it is a voice of deception, which can only offer false hope and promises. It can never bring us the fulfillment we all deeply need. When you get to the very root of it, the ego simply wants to be in control of how you think and how you feel. It is essentially a control mechanism based on fear, and it uses fearful and divisive thoughts to manipulate and influence us. You can clearly see the collective ego operating on a collective scale right now, via the realm of politics and the media. It's all about threat and danger, conflict. Yet most of the threat is manufactured by the ego, so it can persuade us that we need its help to feel safe and protected. This is the grand illusion of the ego and how it maintains its hold upon us. The ego is perpetually insecure because it knows it is built on lies, so it is always in danger of being found out if you scrutinize it very carefully. This is why it is continuously trying to misdirect your attention, absolutely all of the time. It does not want to be seen for what it truly is, which is a fabrication of untruth. So to be free, this is what we must do. Scrutinize the ego with magnifying glass of our attention and see through all of its lies. Once we see the complete insubstantiality of the ego, we will laugh at the fact that we ever believed its lies, that we ever believed we were threatened. And we will see what is really true with our own eyes. We will not have to believe anyone else. We will perceive the spiritual truth for ourselves. So what is the nature of the lies that our ego tells us? How can we tell when we are believing it? Well, it's quite simple. We feel the need to be in control. We will feel the need to manipulate the circumstances and sometimes the people around us to make them work in our favour. And this signifies a complete lack of trust. We also feel any range of negative emotions, but mainly fear, anxiety, stress, insecurity, hostility, anger, irritation. In our mind, we will be judging, seeing a negative outlook, seeing the problems, criticizing how things are and the people around us. There will generally be a mood of negativity or hostility within our mind and heart. When the ego is not manipulating us with its fear/anger-based thoughts, we will feel either happy, at peace, calm, positive, open, generous, friendly, trusting, optimistic, joyful, humorous, or any other positive state of being in our heart. Notice that our heart is more in charge, when our ego is not. This is how things work. Either the ego is in control of how you feel, or your heart is. Our ego often tries to be in control and manipulate how we feel because it wants to take the place of our heart and make you rely upon it. So it will tell you to do things that will make you feel temporarily happy, temporarily peaceful, and so on. But it will never tell you to turn away from itself, to ignore what it is saying to you, and immerse yourself in the truth of your heart. It wants to persuade you that you don't need your heart, you don't need spiritual truth, because you have the truth which the ego is giving you, which is conceptual, mental, thought-based, and totally disconnected from divinity. The ego wants to be our provider of truth. It wants to be our God. It wants us to believe every word it says and take it as gospel. The ego is arrogant, aggressive, limited, controlling, manipulative, and self-righteous. And if we listen to it, we simply take on these qualities ourselves. We can see them manifesting in our thoughts, words, and behavior. This is a good way to tell what it is that we are listening to. However, our heart is humble, gentle, flexible, open, and allows freedom. It does not want to control. It wants to give love, to care, to help. It is not concerned about being judged or even about being right or wrong. It is concerned with being a source of loving warmth and generosity, with being of service to people. This is a sign of genuine humility because the ego does not want to serve anyone. It can make us a slave to many, but it does not want to serve. It always wants to control because it is always insecure and seeks to generate security in any way it can. Primarily with ego-boosting thoughts and by playing ego games in its communications with other people, but also through material means like accumulating money, possessions, social status, by building walls around itself, both figuratively and physically. If we look at ourselves, our life, and where we derive our security from, and what we want from our interactions with others, we can see whether our heart or our ego is more in control. And in any interaction with another human being, we can witness what part of us is more dominant also. Are we trying to get something from the other person? Is our ego trying to prove itself, to battle, dominate, to manipulate them in some way, even just to fortify itself in the process? Or are we genuinely trying to give, to show we care, to help, to listen, to receive and to love? We all share the same fundamental core desires in our heart, and fundamental literally means deeper than our mind. These fundamental desires are the desire for security, the desire for peace, the desire to feel loved, the desire to give love, the desire for a sense of purpose, the desire to be of service, and the desire to be at one with something greater than our own self. But the ego hijacks these fundamental needs and attempts to meet them in its attempt to play God in our life. It attempts to make us feel secure with its ego thoughts and with the fulfillment of material desires and needs, which can never be satiated. It attempts to bring us peace in the same way, and by encouraging us to rely on external substances such as food, drugs, and any other source of pacification, like television, etc. It attempts to make us feel loved by encouraging dependency on the love and approval of others, even our own children. We can also see that our need to give love is often mixed up with the giving of material possessions, objects, money, even empty and often manipulative words and compliments. It attempts to give us a sense of purpose by giving us something to achieve in the temporal realm, a task, a goal, an object, an ambition, etc. It cannot let us perceive that our purpose could be infinitely greater than temporal achievement, because it wants our attention to be trapped in the temporal dimension, rather than exploring freely the spiritual dimension. It attempts to make us feel like we are being of service by making us a slave. We can be a slave to many things, but ultimately it is to the desires, needs, and compulsions of our own insecure ego. We serve our ego, and like a cruel slave master, it spends our energy, exhausts us, uses us, feeds off us, and heartlessly lets us suffer in spiritual darkness. But it has convinced us all that we need it, that we must rely upon it, that only it can make us feel secure and safe. The ego is an extremely deceptive and heartless slave master for sure. And the bottom line is this: if we listen to its thoughts and follow the mental path that they lead us along, we will only increase our sense of division, hostility, fear, isolation, and insecurity. This is the guaranteed consequence of engaging with what the ego is telling us. So it is extremely wise to be aware of when our ego is active in our mind. If we are mentally blaming someone, including ourselves, or judging someone, criticizing them, or having any remotely hostile thoughts about another person, this means our ego is active. This is when we should ignore every thought and every word that our ego is saying. Come back to our center, to ourself, to our breath, and to our heart. Back to our experience of the present moment, outside of our thoughts. The same needs to be done when our thoughts are making us feel afraid, or worried, anxious, pessimistic, or negative in any way. The ego is taking us into its dark realm of negativity, fear and doom, and making us blind to the spiritual truth, a higher truth which transcends all of this mental illusion. And finally, pertaining to our awareness of this higher truth, the ego attempts to meet our deep need to be one with something greater than ourselves by making us desire to belong to a group ideology, a mental belief system that unites us with others. And of course, it can never unite us with everybody. This could be a religious belief system, a political belief system, a scientific one, or something else. It doesn't matter. What we need to realize is that because we all share different beliefs, such things can never truly unite us in the way that we need to be united. The only way we can feel a sense of oneness with our human family is through our heart, because love is a divine thread that joins us all. And in love is where we experience our unity with that spiritual force which is far, far greater than us all. Some call it God, some call it the universe, some call it Source or Great Spirit. And of course, many do not even believe that such a force exists. But if you're one of those people, I can assure you that it does. Of course, I cannot prove it to you, but I can tell you that 23 years of meditation, healing, fasting, cleansing, and physical and emotional detoxification has taught me that there is always so much more to be revealed to us than we are currently aware of. We never know it all, and this is the essence of humility, assuming that there is more for us to learn, to perceive, to realize. There is more that needs to heal within our heart, finer aspects of control and insecurity that we need to let go of. We can grow as a person, our character can evolve and be filled with more love and generosity. In a state of humility, all of these things can happen because we are open and receptive to learn and grow. We can open our eyes to greater, i.e., spiritual, truth that we may have previously believed was not possible. All good things can occur when we are humble. Gratitude is more present in our heart, and we are a more agreeable and less hostile person. Because in truth, you are a truly amazing blessing to this world. Your ego may have persuaded you that you are just another person, another one in 7 billion that doesn't really have a purpose, doesn't really have any significance on this planet. But the truth is that you are extremely important. I'm not speaking to your ego here, but to your heart, which has a divine purpose to make a great difference to the lives of hundreds, thousands, or possibly even millions of people. We have no idea of who we could become if we just listen to our heart. The love, care and compassion in your heart is the most precious commodity on the planet at this time, and it is needed by so many people. Even if you see yourself as one of those people in need, you still have something deeply valuable to offer to those who are in greater suffering, experiencing greater hardship or more pain than yourself. You are here to love others, to care about others, and show them how miraculous the human heart is when it cares and loves. All you need to do is care. A few generous words or gestures can touch people and restore their faith in humanity. Some people are teetering on the edge and losing hope, and it may be someone you have a conversation with today. Who knows? People tend to hide what's going on inside of them, So it is wise to give all the warmth, compassion, and positive energy you can in every interaction with another human being. Talk to people, listen to them, hear them. The ego is so preoccupied with sharing its own opinions and making people listen to what it has to say, but the heart spends so much more time listening. And just to be heard when you are in a place of suffering is more healing than we can understand. People generally don't need more information. They need to be listened to, heard, and unburdened from all the thoughts and emotions which seem to be suffocating them. When we share our feelings, our heart is lightened and unburdened, and no knowledge or expertise are needed just to listen to someone. All we need to do is to give our attention. This is our very most precious commodity, and we should give it freely and generously to those who are in need, those who are suffering. This is our heart in action. We have to remember how gentle, how forgiving, how caring and tender our heart can be, and do our best to relate to others from that place. This is what mercy is. It doesn't seek to punish or teach people lessons like the harsh ego does. It seeks to heal through loving. Yes, it takes practice not to get caught in the ego's drama and reactivity, but that's what each day is for. A new day, a new opportunity to grow, become more forgiving, more loving to ourselves and to others. In fact, each new moment offers us this opportunity. We are all making mistakes, and we will continue to do so. But if we bring in the elements of humility and forgiveness, we needn't punish or berate ourselves for them. And when we stop punishing and criticizing ourselves, we will stop doing it to others also. Look at yourself through forgiving and compassionate eyes, because the child you once were is still in your heart, looking for security, happiness, and freedom. Be gentle with that child, because it needs healing, not punishment, not criticism, not judgment. We all need healing and not punishment, because this is the only way we can evolve. And we are now required to evolve beyond the fearful, harsh, and controlling ego, and let our heart take the steering wheel. The collective ego is reaching its expiry date and is experiencing its final death throes. It is desperately trying to cling on to the human mind like a parasite which is losing its grip. And this is why so much fear is flooding into the collective human mind, specifically through the media. The media is now like a pure vessel for the ego's communications. There is very little love or inspiration present in the media now. It is dividing people, scaring people, making them anxious and angry. This is the ego's speciality. So if we want to feed our heart and make it easier to relate to others from that place, we need to stop feeding our ego with fear, negativity, anger and drama. We can live without our screens very easily if we can just deal with our addiction to them. The antidote is to spend more time in nature, more time being creative, more time communicating with people, rather than just consuming negative information. Communication and community is what gives us strength, and we sacrifice it to our great detriment. It feeds our heart and helps us deal with our challenges, because we are not an isolated island separate from everyone else. We are a cell in the body of humanity, and we need to interact and allow energy to flow between us and others. The human organism has a disease, and that disease is fear, manufactured by the ego purely for its own benefit. The ego is nothing more than a parasite upon human consciousness. As a cell in the human organism, we can help ourselves heal by disconnecting from the source of our sickness, the ego, and all of its manifestations, e.g. the worldwide media. We can easily allow love and strength to return to our heart if we make the right choices choices which we know are beneficial for ourselves, choices that are in harmony with nature and create peace in our heart and health in our body. And this requires discipline, of course. And this is something so many of us need to learn and practice. But we can do it. And when we've truly had enough of making choices that do not benefit our well-being, it is so much easier. So we must remember that we are not healing alone. We have each other for support and strength. When we feel weak, we can reach out to someone who we know cares about us. We can communicate and share our heart, our emotions and our worries with our friends and feel the benefit of the compassion and empathy of others. This is why I believe friendship is the most valuable commodity we all have. It is so precious and deeply valuable. But more importantly, we must also remember that we have spiritual support available to us in each and every moment. The divine force of love, which you could also call God, will always bring peace and healing to our mind and heart if we turn to it in humility. When we are willing to admit that we need spiritual help, we can receive the help in our heart. We get so used to controlling everything that it can be extremely frustrating when we cannot control something which we see as having a detrimental effect, like someone else's behavior or their thoughts about us, for example. This is when we need to let go and trust that it is in God's hands. We do not need to control everything. We need to trust. Trust is the antidote to control, because we only want to control things because we don't trust they'll work out if we leave them alone. Trust untangles us from the ego's web of fear and insecurity and sets us free in such a profound way that there is no substitute for it. Letting go means trusting. And letting go means that we stop trying to control everything. Now, this is impossible for the ego to do because its whole purpose is to be in control. But the heart is different. The heart loves to let go and trust because this is how it experiences its freedom. This is how it soars above the mundane drama of this world, of the mind. We have to trust that if we open the wings of our heart, the spiritual currents of divine love will carry us to exactly where we need to go. And they will, I promise you.